The IRB has suspended the Samoan rugby player who has been tweeting his frustrations about the Rugby World Cup tournament schedule and the refs. His no-holds-barred comments were to be the subject of a judicial hearing today, but the player, Eliota Fuimaono-Sapolu, told me he's been in the dark about the details of the hearing. The first he even knew of his suspension, he claims, is when I told him as we sat down for the interview this afternoon. And he says he had no details about today's hearing.
I had an idea that there was a hearing, but was never told when. And you think natural law would apply?
So hang on, you're not thumbing your nose at the IRB, you even boycotted the hearing, you just didn't know?
Absolutely no idea when.
And the news, as I've just told you, that you're suspended pending the next hearing.
Well, that's ridiculous. They've obviously put out a punishment without hearing the other side of the story, which is against natural law, obviously. Once again, they're acting beyond natural justice. It's ridiculous. But
from their point of view, I presume, they think you're a troublemaker.
Because I question, because I seek justice, and I'm a troublemaker. Need I draw analogies again to the apartheid and slavery where people have spoken up against injustice? Are they troublemakers?
But hang on, let me just pull you up in this, because you do, in your tweets, you said the treatment that Samoa got, we're having far less preparation time than Wales. You said it's unfair treatment, it's like the Holocaust, it's like apartheid, F you.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, it's not just Samoa, by the way, Tier 2 teams. Obviously, there's not a culling of 6 million Samoans or rugby players. What I was alluding to, and it's a bit deeper than what Twitter allows you to explain, but it was about injustice, and it was about primarily, if you take the root of the evil, and the evil is a group of people treating another group of people like crap. And that's what it is. Now, the degree of treatment is obviously different. You know, here we don't have a culling, but we have essentially a group of people, the IRB, treating another group of people, Tier 2, poor teams, like crap. There's a parallel, albeit a small parallel.
Because you're poor and not powerful, or because you're Pacific Islanders? Is this based on colour or power?
I'm not too sure. It could be both. It's definitely based on something. There is a blatant mistreatment.
But that's a fairly... I mean, look, that's a strong accusation to level at anyone, isn't it?
I don't think it's strong. It's obvious. One team got 7 days. We got 3. Springboks got 8. We got 4. It's not an accusation at all. I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying, look and look. You make up your own mind. Does that seem fair to you? It just doesn't seem fair.
But they've taken it seriously enough to say we're going to have a disciplinary hearing, and in fact they've suspended you because you didn't turn up today.
Well, there are remedies and there are ways to go about, from my point of view. You can't just suspend someone without hearing the other person's side of the story.
So you do not for a second regret the use of the word Holocaust?
No, because I'm trying to explain it now.
No.
There is a parallel. There is a parallel, but once again, obviously the type of treatment is different. But there is the unjust root of it, which is one class of people thinking they're superior and I can mistreat and ill-treat another group of people.
There was a couple of issues there. One was the unfair treatment meted out to the Tier 2 teams. The other issue, and this is I think what's really got them going, is criticising the ref.
Right.
You stand by your criticisms of the ref?
Well, we have to look at in law there exists a thing called apparent bias and actual bias. Perhaps the actual bias is debatable, but there is apparent bias in the fact there is a conflict of interest, and thereby, whereby Wales are affected by the result of, you know, our game, and yet we had a Welsh referee. Now, I'm not saying there was actual bias, but there is definitely perceived bias, and that could have been eliminated by just getting another ref. How hard is that?
You're passionate about this.
No, I think it's just blatantly obvious. It's just blatantly obvious. You don't have to be a rocket science to work it out, but you have to be an idiot not to see it.
The rest of the team, do they agree with what you're saying, with what you've done?
I've got a lot of support from a lot of the boys in the team. I'm not going to say they all do support it. I'm not too sure, but I have retweeted a lot of what the boys have said, so I can't speak on behalf of the boys.
When you're going to turn up at the hearing? Are you going to turn up at the hearing?
If they give me a chance to gather my thoughts and find some legal representation, then that's fine. Obviously, I will. But to go out and make a decision without my argument.
The people who are going to be judging you are the people you've criticised.
Absolutely. There's a conflict of interest here.
Do you believe you can get a fair hearing?
Uh, no, I struggle to believe that. I mean, we have to look at the mouthguard issue. We look at how Scotland were treated. We look at the turnarounds. We look at how Tier 2 were treated. Blatantly unfair. I'm more likely to get an unfair hearing than a fair one.
But you said in your tweets, you know, England cheat, nothing happens. You tweet, the hammer comes down.
Absolutely, and it's true. Where you get off changing the balls to take a shot at goal, that's blatant cheating. Now, I'm actually mates with a lot of the England guys. You know, everyone knows that my centre partner in Gloucester is Mike Tyndall, so I'm very close with the boys, but in that instance, that was cheating.
What do you hope to achieve?
Just justice for the next generation. I really hope, I honestly believe that this team, we beat Australia, we should have beaten Springboks. You know, I really believe that this team was an outstanding team, and we were constantly climbing up the hill. We were adversity after adversity, hurdle after hurdle, and it just broke us. I just want the next generation of rugby players, Samoan rugby players, to be given a level playing field.
Do you appreciate that you could jeopardise your entire playing future, couldn't you, by doing this?
Well, that's why I studied hard. That's why I made sure I had a career before rugby, so it wasn't put all my eggs in one basket.
But you're willing to throw away the rugby, if needs be, on principle?
It's a shame to throw away rugby because I'm fighting for justice. That's odd. So if that happens, I'm definitely not throwing it away. I'm having my career squashed by injustice.
I mean, you're trained as a lawyer, so you know what you're doing here.
I don't think anyone knows what I'm doing here. I mean, has this ever been done before?
But it was important for you to stand up. You really feel Samoa and those other teams have been treated disgracefully.
Disgracefully, you know, going back to the hotel and seeing George Stowers and my teammates limp around the hotel room for 2 days because they're tired, they're sore from 80 minutes of rugby, and then having to get up and play the biggest test match, probably the biggest pool game in this World Cup in 3 games. This is the 4th day out from the South African game, and I'm still sore.
Eliota, you didn't get a chance to talk to the disciplining committee today that talked directly to the IRB. There's that camera there. You look straight down that camera.
It's
you
probably
tell
not
them.
the place to talk to them.
You don't want to talk to them?
No. Have you got some boxing gloves? No, I'm not.
Is there any message you want to pass on to them?
I just ask that you include everybody. You include Tier 2. You include the poor nations, the rich nations, the slow and the fast. And we can all celebrate and make this a beautiful game it is. It's an absolute beautiful game. It's strategic, and yet the only way to stop a 140-kilogram prop is to put your body in front of it. No pads, no helmets. It's the most beautiful and most brutal game in the world, and I just wish you include everybody.
Well, we invited the IRB onto the program tonight to respond to Eliota's comments, but they declined. We want to hear what you make of this interview, though. Let us know. Just log on to Close Up's Facebook site or email us at closeup@tvnz.co.nz. Well, thanks for your feedback on tonight's stories. On Facebook, Cameron wrote, Eliota has a legitimate reason to be upset, but likening Manu Samoa's treatment to the Holocaust and apartheid was more than an overstatement. Bill told us he's got a point. $10,000 for a mouthguard, nothing for cheating, changing the ball. Seems like a lot of injustice against lower teams. David says, this guy is an idiot. Don't give him a soapbox. But Chris McLeod says, give that man a medal. On email, Rachel wrote, what a wonderful, eloquent speaker he is. I wholly sympathise with Samoa. I agree that they have been unfairly treated. Give our Pacific neighbours a fair go. About the Ross Intermediate burglaries, Paul told us, electrify the buildings and fences with a massive amount of volts, enough to permanently damage the scumbags. Total waste of oxygen. Marion says, whatever scumbag is stealing them needs to get off their lazy butt and do an honest day's work. Hopefully the mongrel will be caught and locked up permanently.